We follow about some 300 plus women. These women were enrolled, as I said, in 95 and 2001, and the study main aim is to study the natural history of HIV in women, which also became the history of treated HIV, because there is treatment now. When these women were enrolled, I have to say this, 3/4 of the women are HIV positive, and the other 1/4 are HIV negative who work as controls. There were a few women who seroconverted during the study. But at the baseline, when they entered the study, we asked them whether, how these are self-reported data, how they got their HIV, and 41% reported they got it through heterosexual transmission. And 28% were not sure how they got it, and the others were mostly through drug use. So my guess is some of these 28% could be in the heterosexual, but we really don't know. And our study mainly, there is a core study, and there are several sub-studies that go on along with that. And the core study contains a physical exam and a long interview and blood draw. So the women come to us every 6 months. So we conduct all those with them. We conduct about 2 hours interview with them. And we have several, this is the core part, which is mostly about medications and their drug use behaviors and their sexual behaviors, and anything else is happening to them medically. And then we do the physical exam. We also do the pap smears if there is pap smear. If the pap smears are positive, we follow it up with colposcopies. We proved that if HIV positive women, if they have positive pap smears, that can be, cervical cancer can be prevented by doing colposcopies. That's one of the things we proved. And we have data on these women. We are in our 32-second visit right now. We call it every 6 months, we call it a visit. So we are in the 32nd visit, and we are open to collaborations. We are funded by different agencies at NIH, the NIAID, NIDA, and NCI. We also have money from NIDCD. There is a cardiovascular study funded by the Heart and Blood and Lung, I forget the whole name. But there are several NIH agencies which further gave grants to do other studies. And we invite collaborations. Any of you interested in collaborating, contact me anytime later. And I work as the project director for this Georgetown site. We have sub-sites also in Maryland and North Virginia. So this is basically this time a qualitative study. I conducted focus group discussions with the women. So we conducted the discussions only with the African American women, though in the beginning we actually wanted to have groups of white women as well as Hispanic, but due to funding, I didn't really have any funding to do this. We just had to pull some money together to do this. So these were 3 groups with the HIV positive and the HIV negative, and to see if there were any differences. And I can tell you outside there were we didn't see any much differences between the 2. And I moderated these groups personally. I'm an anthropologist by training. And these were all recorded and transcribed verbatim. And these were the various topics for discussion. I don't have to read them now. And we did this in all the focus groups. We asked, say, similar questions to make sure that there are patterns rather than one single group saying something. So these were the. I will go into little details in the next slides. So at first we asked them about awareness, knowledge. Do the women know about this phenomena at all? And they may not know the name DL or the Downlow or the MSMW, but the women do know about this kind of practice, that this kind of thing happens. And in every group we saw that. In every group they said yes, they know. So we didn't really see anyone who didn't know that this happens. And then in every group, we also ask the women whether they can recognize the men who are on the download or who are MSMW. And the women went back and forth on that, and at times they would say, yeah, I know, and they would say, well, things like, or if he asks for anal sex, or if he asks horsey like this, or he just wants to do the intercourse and go away, various things. And then at the end of the discussion, they were like, no way, we really don't know. And also in our groups, we didn't intend to ask this, but it came up in the groups that there were, at least out of the 6 groups, in 4 groups, we had multiple women who were involved with MSMW at some point in their lives. So they, based on their experiences and others' experiences, basically they were all saying there's no way to know. There are no clear signs or symptoms. And then we asked them, how would they react if they find out, or if they did find out, how would they react, or how did they react if their male partners are MSMW or if they're on the download. I'm using those terms interchangeably, there is some, I'm a little uncomfortable, frankly, to use the term down low, because in some ways it can be condescending and can be labeling. And the idea is not the negative labeling, but it's the concern about the women. That's what prompted this research. And that's the reason I try to use them interchangeably. And when I presented this in my office to the staff, they said, I have to use the term down low. They said, that's what it is all about. It's about the secretive phenomena. And so I kept the term. And one thing we noticed when we asked this is when the women found out that their male partners are having sex with other men, this was one thing that we heard repeatedly, am I not woman enough? Because they took it as their personal failure. It's the failure of their femininity. But they never thought, oh, maybe it's his orientation, it's nothing to do with me. That was not the understanding, but because I guess our socialization, our social expectations, women thought that it is their personal failure. And then we also asked this question, actually it came up from one of my male research colleagues in my research meeting when I first presented this idea, and he said, why should be women upset? He was very well-meaning, let me say that, and he said, why should women be so upset because this doesn't threaten their marriages if the men are having sex with other men, whereas if they're having sex with other female partners, that can be threatening the marriage. There is some point in that, so I took the question to the focus groups, and this is what our women said, and as I said, one is about femininity, and then this is something that they don't expect, because in the heterosexual, the way the society thinks, usually we live in this heterosexual ideology. So it is expected that men are heterosexual, particularly if they got into relationships with the women. So the women never expected that. So they said it will be like it outdoors. And they were not happy that they were being blindsided about it. And then, and the shame and hurt feelings, this was really something that I saw again and again. The women felt shame if their men are MSMW. They felt hurt. They said, well, that's because of deception. But they also felt shame. They said that's because it's questioning their femininity. And they didn't like the idea at all. They expressed a lot of disgust at the idea of men having sex with men and women.